Please don't forget to like and subscribe. In a small, secluded village nestled between vast forests and rolling hills, there lived a young woman named Arin. She was of slender build, with eyes as deep and mysterious as the night sky. But it wasn't her eyes or her hair that made her different, it was a unique physical feature, a small, faded scar that ran from her left cheek down to her neck. It was an imperfection that Arin had never truly understood. Her mother would tell her that it was a mark of resilience, a reminder that life often leaves scars, both visible and unseen. But to the villagers, it was more than just a mark, it was a source of ridicule. Among them was Prince Malric, a young and arrogant nobleman who often walked through the village with a sense of entitlement. One fateful afternoon, as he passed by Arin, he sneered and mocked her in front of the crowd. "Look at her, the girl with the blemish," he called, his voice full of derision. "A beauty so flawed, she must be cursed." The crowd laughed, and Arin stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. Though the prince's words stung like 1,000 arrows, Arin's true pain came not from the mockery itself, but from the realization that she would never be accepted for who she was. Humiliated, she retreated into the shadows, away from the eyes of the village. In her solitude, she pondered her place in the world. The mockery seemed to define her existence, overshadowing everything she was capable of. Arin's life felt smaller each day, a dull echo of what it could have been. Yet, as the village elder, an old woman known as Caliph, saw Arin's sorrow from afar, she knew there was more to this young woman than what others saw. Caliph approached Arin, offering a kind smile. "You are not defined by your scars, my child. True beauty comes from within, and so does true strength. Come, let me teach you the ways of healing," Caliph said. Under Caliph's guidance, Arin began to learn the sacred arts of healing. She was trained in the use of herbs, poultices, and potions, all crafted to mend both the body and soul. But what she learned from Caliph went beyond mere remedies for physical ailments, it was about understanding the pain that lay beneath the surface, the suffering that words could inflict upon a heart. As days turned to weeks, Arin's confidence began to grow. She found herself drawn not only to the plants and herbs in Caliph's garden but also to the deeper wisdom Caliph imparted about kindness, compassion, and resilience. The old woman taught Arin how to listen, not only with her ears but with her heart. She showed her how every wound, physical or emotional, could heal with patience, love, and understanding. Though her external appearance had not changed, something inside Arin shifted. The village no longer saw her as the girl with the blemish, they saw her as someone who possessed a quiet strength, a wisdom that few could comprehend. One crisp evening, as Arin practiced mixing a remedy for an ailment of the stomach, she overheard a conversation in the village square. The same young prince, Malric, had fallen ill with a fever that no healer could cure. His condition had worsened with each passing day, and the villagers, with their limited knowledge of healing, could do nothing. The prince's father, the king, had sent for healers from all over the land, but none had succeeded. "Perhaps, we should seek the wisdom of Caliph," one villager suggested. "She may know something that others do not." Arin's heart began to race. Could she dare to step forward? Could she use the knowledge Caliph had entrusted her with to help someone who had mocked her? Episode 3, The Test of Compassion. The king, desperate and weary, finally called for Caliph. But, as fate would have it, the wise elder was ill that very day and could not attend. Seeing an opportunity, Arin stepped forward. "I can help him," she said, her voice steady but uncertain. "I have learned from Caliph. Let me try." The villagers were skeptical. Arin had always kept to the shadows, never stepping into the limelight. But with no other option, the king reluctantly agreed. As Arin approached the prince's chambers, her breath caught in her throat. Prince Malric lay in a grand bed, his face flushed with fever, his body trembling. The once haughty, mocking prince now appeared fragile, vulnerable. For a moment, Arin felt a flicker of compassion. How many times had she been the one who felt weak, ridiculed, and powerless? And now, here he was, in need of someone to help him. She moved quietly to his side, her hands gently placing a damp cloth on his forehead. The prince stirred, his eyes half open, disoriented. Who are you?" he murmured, his voice weak. "I am Arin," she said softly, her hands steady as she administered a herbal remedy to help reduce his fever. "I've come to help you." The prince's eyes flickered with confusion, then recognition. "You," he whispered, "the girl with the scar." Arin didn't flinch at the words. Instead, she continued her work, her mind focused on healing rather than past insults. As the night wore on, she worked tirelessly, using her knowledge of herbs and remedies to calm his fever and soothe his aching body. Slowly, the prince's condition began to improve, and by dawn, his fever had broken. The prince woke to find himself feeling better than he had in days. The room, once heavy with the stench of illness, now carried the faint scent of lavender and rosemary. He blinked in surprise, seeing Arin sitting by his side, watching over him. You saved me," he said, his voice filled with awe. Arin nodded, a quiet smile on her face. "It was not I who saved you, but the knowledge passed down to me. Healing is not about perfection, it is about understanding, compassion, and care." The prince, humbled by the experience, felt a deep sense of regret for his past behavior. "I was wrong to mock you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I judged you based on something that did not matter. I see now that you are far more than your appearance." Arin looked at him, her heart no longer heavy with resentment. "We all have our flaws, Your Highness. It is not the flaws that define us, but how we rise above them." Word spread quickly throughout the village about how Arin had healed the prince. The villagers, who had once ridiculed her, now saw her in a new light. The young woman who had once hidden in the shadows was now a source of inspiration and respect. As weeks passed, Prince Mockery sought Arin's counsel often, not just for his health, but for wisdom in matters of the heart. He learned from her that true leadership required humility and compassion, and that no one was ever too small to make a difference. Arin, too, found that her path had been forever altered. She no longer felt the sting of the past insults. Her confidence, once shattered by the mockery of others, had been restored through the knowledge she had gained and the compassion she had shown. She was no longer the girl with the scar, she was Arin, the healer, the woman who had transformed not only her own life but also the life of a prince. The village flourished under her guidance, and her legacy lived on as a reminder to all who had ever been mocked or misunderstood. We are not defined by our scars, but by the strength we find within ourselves to heal, to forgive, and to rise above. The lesson was clear: never give up on yourself, even when others mock or misunderstand you. True strength lies in knowledge, compassion, and the courage to help those in need. As time passed, Arin's role in the village grew. Her healing skills became known far and wide, and people from neighboring lands traveled to seek her wisdom. Yet with this newfound fame came the weight of responsibility. The demands of the people were constant, and while Arin never turned anyone away, the toll it took on her spirit began to grow heavier. She found herself spending long hours in the village's humble clinic, treating the sick and wounded, often at the expense of her own well-being. The prince, now a close confidant, noticed the strain on her. His concern for her well-being had deepened over the months, and he could no longer sit idly by while she overextended herself. One evening, after Arin had finished her rounds and was preparing to leave the clinic, Mockery arrived with a heavy heart. He had seen the exhaustion in her eyes, the fatigue that had slowly crept into her once strong demeanor. "Arin," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "You cannot keep going like this. You have given so much of yourself to others. What about you? What do you need?" Arin paused, her hand still wrapped around a bundle of herbs she had been preparing for a new patient. She had never truly considered her own needs, always focusing on the suffering of others. But Mockery's words stirred something within her, an understanding that perhaps healing wasn't just about mending the wounds of others, but also about taking care of her own soul. "I don't know," she admitted quietly, her voice a soft whisper. "I never really thought about it." Mockery, seeing her vulnerability, sat beside her and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You've given so much to everyone else, but you must remember that you, too, are deserving of care. You have to allow yourself the space to heal, to rest." His words echoed in her heart, a reminder of her own humanity. Though her scars and imperfections had once defined her, it was her capacity to love and care for others that had brought her strength. Yet, she now realized that strength wasn't limitless, it needed nurturing, just as much as it was needed to help others. In the days that followed, Arin began to take Malric's advice to heart. She made time for herself, allowing moments of rest and reflection. She spent more time in the gardens, tending to the flowers and herbs that had once been her escape. Slowly, the burden she carried began to feel lighter, though the responsibilities of her healing work remained. Malric, too, began to take on more of the administrative duties of the village, ensuring that the people received the help they needed while allowing Arin to focus on her own well-being. They formed a partnership built on mutual respect, and with each passing day, their bond grew stronger. One evening, as Arin sat by the window overlooking the village, Malric joined her. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink as the sun set beyond the horizon. It was a moment of peace, something Arin hadn't felt in a long time. "You know," Malric began, his voice thoughtful, "I've learned so much from you. You've taught me that strength doesn't come from power or prestige, it comes from kindness, from understanding the pain of others, and from offering what we can, even when it feels like we have nothing left to give." Arin smiled softly, a warmth spreading through her chest at his words. "And you've taught me that sometimes, we need others to help us see our own worth. I've always believed that I was nothing more than a scarred girl, but you've helped me understand that I am so much more than that." They sat in silence for a while, watching the last light of the day fade. There was a quiet understanding between them, one forged through the trials of healing, of learning to forgive, and of discovering their own strength. As the months turned to years, the bond between Arin and Prince Malric only deepened. He had become a man of wisdom, tempered by his past mistakes and the lessons he had learned from Arin. Under his leadership, the village flourished, but it was Arin's guidance that had transformed it into a place of healing, both physically and emotionally. One day, as Arin stood in the village square, she overheard a conversation between a group of young villagers. They spoke of a distant war, of rumors of battle and bloodshed. The king, still aging and weak, had received word that his soldiers were being called to fight. A deep sense of dread settled in Arin's heart. She had already lost so much in her life, the mockery of her youth, the pain of rejection, and yet, she had never truly faced the possibility of losing those she loved. Could she bear to lose Malric, the prince she had come to trust and care for so deeply? That night, Malric found her by the garden, a troubled expression on her face. "You've heard the news," he said softly, his voice heavy with the weight of the world. Arin nodded, her heart aching with the thought of the war and what it might bring. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you," she confessed, her voice trembling. "You've become so much more than the prince who once mocked me. You've become a part of me." Malric stepped closer, his hand gently brushing hers. "Arin," he said, his voice unwavering. "I will return to you. I promise. And when I do, we will rebuild this village, this place of healing. I will fight not just for the crown, but for the people, for you." The sincerity in his words brought tears to Arin's eyes, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of hope, the hope that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, their bond would survive. Months passed, and news of the war's outcome reached the village. Arin continued her work, but a part of her heart remained anxious, waiting for the return of the prince. Then, one fateful day, a messenger arrived at the village gates, bringing news of victory. The war had ended, and Prince Malric had returned, not as the arrogant young man who had once mocked Arin, but as a leader tempered by the trials he had faced. He had fought not just for victory, but for the promise he had made to her. When Malric returned to the village, Arin was there, waiting for him. As their eyes met, a silent understanding passed between them. They had both been tested by the world, but together, they had found strength in each other and in the healing that only love and compassion could bring. In the years that followed, Arin and Malric continued to lead the village, creating a sanctuary of peace and healing. Arin's wisdom and compassion guided them all, and the scars of her past became nothing more than a reminder of the strength she had found within herself. The village flourished, and Arin's legacy lived on, one of resilience, of healing, and of the power of compassion to change lives. And as for Arin, she no longer saw her scars as a mark of imperfection, but as a testament to the strength she had gained. She had learned, as we all must, that we are not defined by the mockery of others, but by the wisdom, love, and courage we carry within ourselves. In the aftermath of the prince's return, the village experienced a time of great growth. With Malric now a more humble and wise leader, the people of the village respected not only his strength in battle but his understanding of human frailty, a lesson he had learned from Arin. Together, they forged a future where healing, both physical and emotional, was at the heart of the community. But with peace came a new challenge. Arin, having become the village's chief healer and trusted advisor, felt the weight of her responsibilities. The once isolated young woman who had spent years hiding from ridicule now found herself in the spotlight. People from far and wide sought her counsel and remedies. The delicate balance of offering care without losing herself was becoming increasingly difficult. Late one evening, Arin stood on the edge of the village, looking out at the horizon where the sun was just beginning to rise. The sky was painted in soft purples and pinks, a stark contrast to the turbulent emotions stirring within her. Though she had achieved so much, proving her worth, healing the prince, and earning the respect of her village, she felt an emptiness, a longing for something she couldn't quite define. Malric approached her, sensing her turmoil. "Arin," he said quietly, his voice full of concern. "What troubles you? You've given everything for the good of the village, yet you seem distant, as if part of you is still searching for something." Arin looked at him, her heart aching with an unfamiliar sense of loss. "I fear I am losing myself in all of this," she admitted. "I have healed so many, but who is there to heal me? I don't know how much longer I can carry this weight." Malric stood beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to carry it alone, Arin. You've taught me that healing is a shared journey. Let us walk it together, just as we always have." For the first time in a long while, Arin allowed herself to lean into the support of someone else. Together, they found a new path, one not just of leadership, but of shared vulnerability and mutual care. Arin realized that, just as she had healed the wounds of others, she too needed time to heal and grow. As the seasons changed, the village thrived under the leadership of Arin and Malric. The people flourished, and the land became a sanctuary for those in need of healing. But the past was never far behind. One day, a figure from Arin's past returned to the village, the very man who had mocked her when she was a child, the man whose cruel words had left deep scars on her heart. He had heard of Arin's transformation, of how she had become a healer and a symbol of strength. But even as he approached her, he could not help but feel a sense of guilt for his past actions. "Arin," he began, his voice low with shame. "I've come to seek your forgiveness. I was wrong to mock you all those years ago. I see now the strength you possess, the power that lies in your heart. Please, forgive me." Arin stood in front of him, her heart torn. She remembered the pain, the humiliation, the way his words had shattered her confidence. Yet, in that moment, she realized that holding on to the past only kept her bound to those old wounds. "I forgive you," Arin said softly, her voice steady but full of compassion. "I've learned that forgiveness is not just a gift to others, but to ourselves. It frees us to move forward, to heal completely." The man, overwhelmed with gratitude, bowed his head. "Thank you, Arin. You are a true healer." With that, Arin realized that her healing was not just about curing physical ailments, it was about restoring the spirit, lifting the burdens that weighed on the heart. Her compassion had the power to transform not just bodies, but souls. As years passed, Arin's story became a legend in the village. The girl who had once been mocked, the woman who had healed the prince, and the healer who had touched the hearts of many, became a symbol of strength and transformation. Under her guidance, the village established a school of healing, where future generations could learn the ancient arts of medicine, compassion, and empathy. Arin's teachings were passed down to countless others, each person carrying forward the legacy of love and healing she had built. Malric, now a king, ruled justly with Arin by his side, their partnership a shining example of unity and mutual respect. The village had become a beacon of peace and healing, a sanctuary for those seeking solace and restoration. One day, as Arin stood overlooking the village, now thriving and full of life, she reflected on her journey. The scar that had once defined her was no longer a mark of shame, but a reminder of the strength it took to overcome the darkness. She had not only healed others but had healed herself in the process. Arin turned to Malric, who stood beside her, watching the horizon with a quiet smile. "Together, we've built something beautiful," Arin said, her voice full of pride and contentment. "Yes," Malric agreed, his hand gently resting on hers. "And the beauty lies not just in what we've built, but in the hearts we've touched along the way." And so, the legacy of Arin, the healer, continued to grow, a testament to the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the ability to turn pain into strength. The village, once filled with mockery, now stood as a place where people came not just to heal, but to find hope, and where Arin's story would inspire generations to come, that no matter how deeply one is scarred, the heart has the power to heal, to forgive, and to transform. Years passed, and the village continued to prosper under the leadership of Arin and Malric. Their partnership had become legendary, not just for their wisdom and strength, but for the deep love and respect they held for each other. Arin's healing school had grown, with students from far and wide traveling to learn the sacred art of mending both body and soul. Arin had become not just a healer, but a living embodiment of the lessons she had learned throughout her life. The mockery she had once endured no longer defined her, her strength was rooted in compassion, resilience, and the ability to rise above the hurt others tried to impose on her. One quiet evening, as the sun began to set in the sky, Arin stood at the edge of the village once more. She looked out over the land that had been her home, the land she had fought so hard to heal, and she felt a profound sense of peace. The scars that had once been a symbol of her pain now stood as a testament to the journey she had taken, the healing she had undergone, and the lives she had touched. Malric joined her, standing by her side as he always had. They had both grown so much since the days of mockery and doubt. He turned to her with a smile. "You've done more than heal people, Arin. You've healed this entire village. You've taught us all that strength comes not from perfection, but from knowing that we can rise again, no matter how hard we fall." Arin looked at him, her heart full. "And you've shown me that no one should have to walk their path alone. We can always lean on each other, even in our darkest moments." Together, they stood in the fading light, a symbol of the power of healing, compassion, and unity. Arin's story had come full circle, from the girl who had been mocked and hidden in the shadows to the woman who had healed not just the bodies, but the spirits of everyone she touched. The lesson. Arin's journey teaches us that no matter how deep the wounds, whether physical or emotional, we all have the power to heal. The pain we endure can be transformative if we allow it to teach us. True strength doesn't lie in perfection or in the absence of scars, but in our ability to rise again, to forgive, and to show compassion. It reminds us that we are never defined by the mockery of others or by the mistakes of our past. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and by embracing both our flaws and our strengths, we become the healers of our own stories. Most importantly, it shows us that healing is not a solitary journey. It is a shared path, one that requires love, support, and the willingness to help others, even when it feels like we have nothing left to give. In the end, Arin found her true purpose, not in the absence of pain, but in the power of forgiveness, compassion, and the unwavering belief that no one, no matter how scarred, is ever beyond healing. End of story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more beautiful story.